Arguably the only really exciting game in these later game afternoon, nighttime slate matchups. We got the San Francisco 49ers versus the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks coming off of their first loss last week versus the Arizona Cardinals, whereas the 49ers have started to come back up and get closer to where we were hoping or expecting to see them from the beginning of the year. Obviously still dealing with a ton of injuries. We have Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson are both out. Tevin Coleman is still a unknown at this point. They are trying to get him ready for this game. At this point, I still don't expect to see him back, but this will be another one of those situations where we might need to update you guys on Saturday night. As we get more information, I'm operating right now that Jerick McKinnon and JaMycal Hasty will end up being the guys going into this game. Same problem for the Seahawks. As of Thursday, Travis Homer, Carlos Hyde were not practicing, nor was Chris Carson. At this point, the only healthy running back on the team is DeeJay Dallas. I do think Carlos Hyde will eventually see some workload in the practice this week, and I think Carlos Hyde will end up playing this week. I just don't know to what effect. So it's going to be a very annoying game trying to figure out the running backs here, but we're more excited about the pass catching options in this game anyway. Both teams made that pretty easy for us, as we will get into. 54-point over-under, highest over-under on the week. Obviously, the 49ers defense has been playing well, keeping teams in check, but Vegas doesn't seem to care when it comes to the Seahawks, nor really should they. Russell Wilson has been able to dominate regardless of the matchup up to this point, so we're not really worried about the 49ers pass defense. The run defense is something definitely to keep a note because of the fact that we're already dealing with a bunch of uncertainty with injuries and not really sure who's going to get the workload with Chris Carson likely on the bench this week. This might be a situation to avoid in the run game, whereas on the Seahawks side, their defense has just been atrocious across the board, still dealing with a ton of injuries. It's not necessarily all their fault. They're pretty banged up at this point, and I do expect this defense to get better as the season goes on, but it doesn't look like they're going to be much healthier this week than they were last week, in which they gave up a ton of points to the Cardinals. So this could be a high-scoring game. I like a lot of the options in this one. The 49ers are a bit more of a conundrum. We'll talk about them first. I do think Jimmy Garoppolo is a decent start. I don't have him in my top 12, which by nature pushes him into the second guess category. But if you need a streaming play, I do think that Jimmy Garoppolo will have a good game against this putrid Seattle secondary. So if you need a streaming option, there's not many better options on the waiver wire. I think Jimmy Garoppolo will be a fine play. With Deebo Samuel out, I think Brandon Aiyuk is arguably one of the biggest smash plays on the week. Should be a top 15 option at the receiver position. And then, of course, George Kittle is going to have himself a fantastic day here. Those guys are locked and loaded. Now, the real question is, if Coleman is back, do you play him? Do you play Hasty? Do you play McKinnon? Man, the situation is pretty much gross across the board because one of these guys is probably going to have a really good day and you don't know who it is. So if you want to take the coin flip, all right, let's play this situation out in one of two ways. First, we'll say if Coleman is out, what I anticipate happening is I think we'll see a little more Hasty than we will of McKinnon, but Hasty has not been involved in the pass game, whereas McKinnon has been. So McKinnon could arguably have the better role heading into a game against the Seahawks where they'll likely have to score a lot of points, won't be able to run the ball as much as they'd like to. So if Coleman is out, I feel like I would be a little bit more prone to play McKinnon in PPR, even though I know he barely saw the ball last week with Wilson out. I don't think the fact that he's in Shanahan's doghouse for whatever reason, I don't think that's going to end up playing into the game script this week. Hopefully they've been able to make amends with whatever situation happened there. I have no idea. I don't want to speculate on it, but hopefully McKinnon is no longer in the under the rain cloud that Shanahan put over him. So with Wilson out, if Coleman is out, I think McKinnon is a better play here. He's looked really good when he has actually touched the ball. Not that Hasty hasn't looked bad either. Both of these guys are okay flex plays this week. Now, if Coleman is back, that throws a massive wrench into the plan. I think Coleman would be the only guy I would trust starting this week, and I wouldn't even think about playing Hasty or McKinnon. So bear that in mind as we get more practice reports. Tevin Coleman is a very big linchpin in what we're going to do with this San Francisco backfield. Kendrick Borden is also an interesting name to throw out there if you're like desperate and really need to just pick someone off the waiver wire and throw him into your lineup if you're dealing with a bunch of buys or injuries this week. I think he runs a decent chance at scoring a touchdown in this one. Doesn't give you a massively high ceiling, but definitely gives you the ability to put up like a 15-point game. I'm not playing any defenses against the Seahawks at this point. On Seattle's side, this one's easy. We're going to play Wilson, we're going to play Metcalf, we're going to play Lockett. As I mentioned in the lead up here, the 49ers have one of the better run defenses on the league. We have Carlos Hyde dealing with a hamstring injury, hasn't practiced all week. DeeJay Dallas could end up being the lead back here. If Carlos Hyde is out, if he's rolled out and DeeJay Dallas is the only starting running back heading into this game that's healthy, I will definitely bump DeeJay Dallas up in my rankings, probably up to the point that you'd be starting him, just based on the nature of him being the only guy in town getting a workload, workhorse carries. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Hyde does end up playing, and I think this just ends up being a bad situation for both of these guys because this isn't a game that you want to be playing running backs against the 49ers. The run defense has been very solid, so I'm pretty much only looking at DeeJay Dallas if Carlos Hyde is ruled out. I'm not playing either tight end in this one. Olsen has started to get relegated. We've seen Disley get a bit more involved, especially in the red zone. So I feel like Disley is slowly going to be taken over, still recovering from that injury last year, but Disley is going to end up being the man here at some point. So if you're trying to stow away a tight end here, I do think Disley wouldn't be the worst spot on your bench, but I'm not playing a tight end against the 49ers this week in an uncertain matchup. This one's pretty easy for me and who we're starting. I think the Seahawks end up winning this one 31-20, but I have doubted the 49ers in the past and they have proved me wrong. And I know the 49ers and Seahawks always play themselves really tough, so don't be surprised if this game is a lot closer than I have predicted right here.